What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Bucky with you. Buck, what's going on, man?
No, man, great weekend. Happy Father's Day to you. I'm sure you had an
Father's Day.
opportunity to get with the family and your dad and all that other stuff. Like, it's always a great time to kind of reflect over a great weekend. And then to me, DJ, it's like you have Father's Day, you have 4th of July, and then it's football season.
Yeah,
And so
and we're
that's
here.
kind of where we're at. Like, you got a couple weeks to 4th of July. And then once you get to 4th of July, it is downhill quickly before we get to the season.
Yeah, no doubt. It starts to really speed up on you. Had a great trip this last week. Buck went to Orlando and then ended up jetting over to Gainesville. Get a chance to visit there with Coach Napier and see their whole facility and setup there. Man, what a setup! It's a little different than the quote unquote field house we had at App State back in the late '90s. The facilities these days are just unbelievable. Everything they have for these players. And I was walking around there, and the thought that kind of went through my mind, and I'll get you on this topic before we get to our guest, which we have a great guest and a fun conversation coming up here in just a minute. But my thought was NIL, the college experience now, I don't think it's ever been better. And I don't think that this is a fad with these guys staying in school. I mean, to me, if I'm a day 3 pick, that life is too good in college right now, and I'm getting paid. I'm getting this training, these facilities, the army of resources that they have for these guys is insane. I just don't know if it's ever been better to be a college player. I mean, everybody talks, people are upset about alignment and change and this, that, and I don't think it's ever been better.
No, I don't think it's ever been better. And I think if you're really smart and you have a plan going into college, you really can maximize this experience. Not only monetarily, when you talk about NIL and the side deals that you can also, but just think about going in knowing that you're going to have NIL money while also having an opportunity to get your education in a few different ways, where you're being able to see people on an accelerated plan where they not only get a bachelor's, but then they can get a master's or whatever. People can really set themselves up for a very productive life after football is done, whether it's done at the end of college or done after you some time in the pros. To me, if you are a forward-thinking college player, this is the best time that it's ever been to be a college athlete.
Yeah, and I also think of all these different factors of guys entering college early, which we've seen a lot, right, to get in there that spring. So guys are graduating early, which means really you can kind of, obviously you can get paid throughout your whole college career, but if you graduate early and stay there and you're enrolled in a graduate course or what have you, you're basically a professional football player. You can live at the facility with very little academic requirements at that point in time. And for all the clamoring of we don't have a minor league system, we got this other league, we haven't really developed this thing properly. College is now going to maintain and hold on to a lot of these kids and give them that quote unquote minor league experience as they kind of get between college and the NFL. Those last year or two of college, where they're not going to have much academic responsibilities because they get in early, they graduate early. I think it's great, man. I know some people are so upset and frustrated by this new system. I think it's awesome. I might be alone on this. I think it's great.
No. I think if channeled the right way and done the right way, I think it would be mutually beneficial for players and the universities. I think players have to understand what's the longer goal, though, like, because you have a lot of guys that are kind of popcorning around, bouncing around from school to school. I think if it's a little more planned in terms of like what you talked about, and I believe this, I'll go back maybe a decade. Quarterbacks were on this a long time ago. Quarterbacks were on the graduate high school early enroll, get ahead of the clock so you can get to a school, graduate, and then have options at the end of that 3.5-year period where either stay and continue to play, go pro, or transfer elsewhere and have another opportunity. Now everyone is beginning to take advantage of that opportunity. But it's about having a plan. Is really that part of it. If you have a plan in place, you can maximize the experience to have a lot of money in the bank while also having multiple options with what you want to do in your post-playing career.
The other thing I was thinking of is with this addition of the 12-team playoff. I don't know. Like, I got some of these preview magazines, and I've been kind of looking at the schedule and different things. And, Buck, I think because we have 12 teams now, that the desperation to not lose a game because that could literally take you out of the playoff hunt. I'm pull up the schedule right now. Like, have you looked at Florida's schedule? And like, you look around the country and you see the schedules that these teams have. Florida opens up against Miami, right? So that's a non-conference game. Then they play Samford, but then it's A&M, Mississippi State, UCF, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas. LSU, Ole Miss, and then the rivalry game with Florida State. I'm like, and USC's playing LSU. Like there is massive games all over the college football landscape. And I think because we have 12 teams now, you're going to see less quote unquote cupcake games, and you're going to see more really good games out of conference. And now, because especially in the Big Ten and the SEC, like there is no easy weeks, man. Like those two, that is a meat grinder for those schools.
Yeah, it's a meat grinder for those schools, and you have to be able to get it. But DJ, this is almost like a perfect world for coaches in terms of how you want to go about building your team. So I can play tough games early to kind of gauge where we are, where we need to improve, and still put myself in a chance with an opportunity to get back in the tournament, maybe as a lower seed, but still kind of having a true assessment of what my team is. Whereas before, you wanted to avoid playing some of those tougher teams because you could be knocked out before the party even gets started.
Yeah.
To me, it should encourage more teams to really play a rigorous non-league schedule to at least have one of those games that is a measuring stick game where we can see where we are, see where we need to get better, whether we win or lose, to put ourselves in a better position to be able to play our best ball down the stretch. I'm so excited for college football and this 12-team play. It's one of those things that I always kind of was envious of the lower levels that would have like that 16-team playoff, and you would see how it would culminate and have the champion recognized that way. I'm really glad that at the upper levels, we get 12 teams. We get to see who's who and what's what. And even though people talk about all those early games are going to be non-competitive, we've been around football too long to think that everyone is just going to chalk it all the way into the Final Four. Just doesn't happen.
No, I'm fired up for it, man. I actually kind of like the way that college football has gone. I think it's great, and I think it gives players a lot of power and opportunity, which I think is a good thing. I think it's great for scouts to be able to see good on good competition. You get players from maybe some lower levels that have climbed up to play against better players. That makes the evaluation process easier. It's better for the player. It's great for those big programs. Now, some of the mid-major programs, it's a challenge. Like they almost have to have a little bit of a junior college mindset of I'm going to have to be on a 2-year cycle with most of these players instead of a 4-year cycle. If I get the right ones, some of them are going to graduate after 2 years up to bigger schools. But that's just, something you got to adapt to and adjust to. But overall, I kind of like the landscape and how this whole thing is set up.
Yeah, I do like the landscape. I like how it's set up. I love the competitiveness that we're going to see as it kind of begin to break it off in the postseason. And I am a believer, particularly after watching. I don't know if you've had a chance to catch any of the College World Series. Man, there's just something about tournaments and tournament play and being the last one standing that I appreciate. And even though I like the previous iterations of the playoff, a 12-team playoff tournament where you recognize the champion, I feel like you need to go through a bit of a gauntlet to be recognized as a true champion, regardless of which teams are down at the bottom part of the bracket. When you knock off these teams, I think it's more of a true champion than the way that we were selecting the champions in previous years.
No doubt. Well, I mean, that's again, we'll have plenty of time as we get to the season to get into more of this stuff, but just some thoughts there on what's going on in the college football world, what that looks like, getting a chance to see it up close and personal. It was a great trip there to Gainesville. All right, let's get to our guest here. Let's go from the SEC to a former Big 12 player here, and Chris Harris. Look, when you pile on a decade plus of NFL experience as an undrafted player, you've done something right. And what we wanted to focus on with Chris today, Buck, is the challenge. What's it like as an undrafted player? Every year we talk about these first-round picks ad nauseum, but we don't necessarily give a lot of voice to the challenge of being an undrafted player. But you can go through history and we can find some unbelievable ones. I mean, you rattle them off the top of your head from Tony Romo. You think about Priest Holmes. You think about, obviously, Chris, who's going to be with us today. He has one of his classmates from that year was a guy named Doug Baldwin, who had a nice run. They're everywhere every year. Austin Eckler, we could go on and on and on and on and on. But you can find impact from these guys. But it is a unique challenge that they face and a conversation we were looking forward to having. So here it is. Here's our chat with Chris Harris. All right, Buck, excited to have our friend Chris Harris join the show. Chris, man, first of all, thanks for taking some time in the offseason over the summer here. I know we all try and get a little bit of a break, so we appreciate you taking some time for us today.
Oh, yeah, no problem, man. Y'all been great for me over my career, man. So it's definitely fun to come up here, talk football with you guys, man. It's always fun.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time, man. We want to spend today. We've had a chance to visit with you so many times over the years and enjoyed those conversations talking about the league and what's going on. But this is a specific conversation we wanted to have with you And that is about the transition, the challenge, and then the keys to being successful as an undrafted player. You go back to you and your process coming out of Kansas. You go undrafted, no combine invite. Like, the deck is stacked against you. So let's start first of all there. What was your mindset at the time as you realize, okay, we've made it through the draft, I'm undrafted, and now my journey begins?
Oh man, luckily I was blessed that, well, it was I would say it was a negative and a positive, right? We had that lockout. So I got to go up to, once the lockout was lifted, I got to be with the team faster than the other rookies because they hadn't signed their rookie contract yet. It was the new CBA, and nobody knew like the beginning guaranteed. The issue now. Yeah. Now it's not an issue now because now everybody knows the slots of the quarterback, number one pick, all the way down, right? But at that time, it was the first year, so nobody really understood how much Cam Newton was going to get. So Von and a lot of those guys didn't get there until probably like a week or so later. So that gave me an opportunity to show what I could do. So and that was the advantage for me, being able to come through in the lockout, being undrafted. As soon as that lockout was lifted, I was picked up literally the next day, and I had to fly to Denver and get ready. So I had to be ready to go. I'd be in great shape because first thing they did to us is run a run test. And some of the vets that were there that could make the run test, they always sent them home. So that was a wake-up call right there for me. First day, just seeing how cutthroat it was, seeing that Elway wasn't playing any games, and that we had to come back in shape.
Chris, and thinking about that, because you got that rude awakening right away. They have the conditioning test, they send guys home. What is that like, though? Like, because it's different coming in. Like, I was a second round pick, so you kind of get grandfathered in. The vets kind of take you in, but as an undrafted, like, you're looking around, and all coaches say, don't count the numbers. But what is your mindset like every day when you show up to the facility, knowing that you're living on the bubble in a different way than some other guys are living on the bubble?
Oh man, it was hard because when you're undrafted, they don't never change the depth chart. I would stay at number 10 the whole way. So it's like you can't look at the depth chart, right? You can't look at a lot of the outside things. You just got to play ball and try to control whatever you can control. And my mindset was, hey, I'm just gonna prove what I can do. I know they're gonna give me a little reps on the twos, but most of my reps gonna be right here with these threes. So when we go against the ones, that's when I need to make some plays, right? When I go against Brandon Lloyd or Decker at that time, I got to make plays. So that was my mindset. Luckily, I had great vets. I had Champ Bailey, Brian Dawkins. I had another corner named Andre Goodman that all had 10 plus years in the league. So I had some great vets that spoke confidence in me from day one, man. So shout out to Champ. He gave me confidence. Probably after he seen me play for like a month in camp, he was like, okay, yeah, we want you to play with us and get you going. So he definitely took me under his wing.
One of the things we always talk about with kids when they're coming into the draft process and we're trying to give them some advice and help them through that time, we talk about the importance of pen and paper of hey, you look in the room and you look around, the guy who doesn't have a pen in his hand, okay, I feel good about winning that competition. Like, how important was it for you? You talked about those vets. You can ask them questions, but at some point in time too, you got to observe and you got to learn things and take notes. How was your process of really trying to collect all this valuable information to give yourself a chance?
Yeah, man, I was lucky to play 3 positions in college. I played corner 3 years, and then my last year I was playing nickel and safety. So I got to play all the positions, right? So coming in the NFL, and I had like 3D coordinators at that time. So I got to see a variety of defenses at the time as a young kid. So coming in the league, I was pretty smart for I would say, coming in, understanding the different defenses, understanding how to communicate, understand running in motion, stacks and bunches, communicating with the vets and things like that. And pretty much Doc told me, like, hey, man, you got to communicate because you're in the middle. You got to run the show a lot of times in the middle. The nickel has to run the show. So, they kind of let me know I got to communicate early. And ever since then, I kind of took that as my own, as that's my job, and that's secondary, to be able to take ownership of the coverages, run the show. But that's what helped me out, playing multiple positions in college, coming in the league, having that under experience, right? Starting 40 plus games in the Big 12. You know, so I already had confidence because I already faced Dez Bryant. I've already faced Jordy Nelson, Jeremy Maclin, Michael Crabtree. Like, I've already went against these guys in college, you know. So I had confidence I could cover these guys, but it was just making sure that mentally, because as an undrafted player, you can't make any mistakes. Your mistakes are limited. Right? I can't make the same mistakes as Von Miller or Raheem Moore. Right? My mistakes got to be way limited compared to those guys. So that's the difference. As an undrafted, your margin for error is very slim.
You know, it's funny, Chris, one of the things that I struggle with in my career is having the confidence is one thing, but pulling the trigger is another thing. And so playing defensive back, there are times where you're like, man, they line up in this split every time they run this route. How did you, as an undrafted player, have the confidence just to let it go? Because all that other stuff is in your head about, man, if I make a mistake, I may go home. What was it about you that separated you from others in terms of, I'm going for it. I see it. I'm going for it.
Man, I think I'm probably the most competitive guy too. Probably when it comes to not wanting to lose. You know, that was me and Akeem. We're probably the most competitive people you'll know. We don't like to lose at anything, you know. So having me and him on the team, you know, we hate to lose, you know. So that's why we work so well from college to the NFL, having that competitive drive. But that's another thing that kept me in the league right there, Bucky, is that I was a pit bull, right? I didn't care if I got beat. If you beat me 2 times, I'm coming back, you know, even harder. So that's what really, you know, kept me that edge in the league, is that regardless, I was going to compete, you know, which a lot of guys you see, if they drown out, you know, they can't compete through the hard times, through the you know, the mental toughness times, you know, in the league, right? They can't give up touchdowns to AB and then come back and line up again. A lot of people can't do that. They can't function like that, right? So I was lucky to have that competitive nature, that, you know, I was going to line up regardless, right? And that's what really separated me from a lot of guys on our team. With a lot of guys that are competitive, I think I was probably one of the most competitive out of everybody.
It's interesting you use that word, because I was trying to find, and one of the reasons we want to chat with you too was to find that through line, like what, you know, your experience. Well, how does that relate to other people that had a similar experience? And I was going back through your draft class. You know, another undrafted guy from your year was Doug Baldwin. And Doug and Bucky and I both scouted him coming out of college, and it was literally angry Doug. Like, that was the way he played. Was ultra competitive, ultra tough. You guys were both, I think, 3 sport guys. You had multiple sports coming out of high school, which we love, because it means you're just competing year round in a variety of different sports. But the other thing I was thinking of with guys like you and Doug that have had these long runs, these successful careers, it feels like you guys kept that like that drive and that competitiveness of an undrafted player throughout your entire career, even after the contracts, you know, keep piling up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. And he's the perfect example, right? Of just dominating on special teams. And then eventually them seeing that this guy can actually run routes, he can play receiver. Now they give him a chance at receiver, right? And he pushed his way into the lineup. So, you know, very similar stories. I always loved facing Doug and seeing how his career went, and always looked at him because, you know, that's how I had to make the team. I had to be the leading tackler on special teams in the preseason. So to be able to make sure I can secure a spot as the 5th corner on the team. And then eventually by game 3, game 4, I'm starting out there on the field. So that his same way that he made it is kind of similar to mine, man. And that's kind of a lot of the routes that you're going to have to take as an undrafted guy. You better be dominated on special teams. You better find a role on the team right there so you can secure the 53-man roster and then work your way up. But a lot of guys, man, you know, Bucky, they don't want to play special teams. They don't want to, you know, they don't want to do that hard job at gunner, right? I'm pretty sure me and Baldwin was at gunner, right? But he was blocking kicks. That's what Doug was doing. Doug was blocking punts and things like that. But you better find a role on special teams if you're an undrafted guy.
You know, and thinking about that, because I think so much of what we can learn is through the teaching. So if I'm an undrafted player, I come to camp and I'm playing behind you, Chris, and I say, Chris, how can I make the team? How can I carve out a career? What's the number one thing that you're going to tell me as an undrafted?
Special teams. You got to find a role on special teams, right? You got to find a role that it's going to secure you on the 53 besides playing at your position, right? Because a lot of times coming into the league, they already know who they have starting, right? You rarely come into the league and they have 2 corner spots open, right? They might have one, they might have a nickel, they might have some competition open at the 2 spot, but rarely, a lot of teams already have their corner set, right? So you got to figure out a way to carve away on special teams, make sure I get some value, and then eventually through injuries or they see that you're competing well, or maybe this guy is not producing, now I can find my way to get on the field, right? And sometimes it's good to wait as a rookie a couple games, right? I think it was good for me to watch a couple games, 3 games, and then see how it is, see how it is when Doc and them out there really communicating and hitting and champing them or playing, So it was good for a couple games to see. And then when it's time to go out there, you're ready to play.
Now, I just wrote down on my paper here, you better know everything and you be ready to do anything. Like it sounds like those are key components if you're going to get out there. If a coach has the faith that you're going to know what to do, and then you have a willingness to do anything they ask you to do, it feels like that's kind of what we're getting to. That's a big part of this equation.
Oh, yeah, because you're playing with a grown man now. You're playing with people that are, trying to take care of their 5 kids, trying to take care of their family, their household. So you don't want a little kid to come out there and play with you and not be able to communicate, not know the cause, not understand the game plan, right? Understanding motion and different things like that. It's a lot to an NFL game when it comes to preparation, right? It's a reason why it takes 3 or 4 days to get ready for a game, right? It's not easy, right? Especially with the offenses and the things that they're doing. So you got to be on point mentally, because if you understand the game plan, you understand the scheme, what are you going to do? You're going to play fast. You're not going to think, right? Everything is going to be, your movements is just going to be fully just based off football, because you know what to do. You know where to line up. So the easier you can do to make that for you, to go out there and have success, that's how you make the team right there.
Chris, when I was in Green Bay, Ron Wolf, the general manager, used to love to hire former players to scout. And what I want to do is I want to tap into your experience as a player to kind of get a little insight in terms of what you would look for in a player that you would want to play with you. So when you're scouting DBs and you're scouting defensive players, or they ask you about a player when you were in Denver, what are you looking for from a mentality or a football character standpoint in a teammate?
Yeah. Oh, man. First thing, is he competitive? Is he a dog, right? Will he compete when it's hard? You don't see that a lot, right? And the ones that do have that, those are usually the Pro Bowls, the all-pro guys, right? But that's what you're really looking for. You want to see if can I count on this guy opposite of me, right? I can count on Roby. He's a dog. I can count on Talib, Champ, and those guys. That they're going to compete. Right. And that's all you want, really. Right. If you got somebody that can fight for you on the other side and compete, I'll lace them up with you. I had to do that with a lot of young corners, those guys went out there and played hard. So I can live with that at the end of the day. Not everybody's going to be perfect, especially with technique coming into the league. But that's something that we could mold. Are you coachable? Right. You want to have a kid that's coachable. A lot of these coaches have been coaching longer than what we've been playing, right? So they understand the game. They've been in the NFL longer than older than us. You know what I mean? So can you be coachable? Can you learn? Do you want to learn? Right? Are you interested? Do you love the game? Right? A lot of people might not truly love the game. They might love the stuff that come with the game, right? But I'm pretty sure Aaron Donald loved the game, right? So you gotta. That's what I'm looking for. Are you competitive? How much do you love the game? Are you in tune and trying to study, trying to get better and improvement? And that's what I want to see. If you do that, I can work with you, man. We can work with you.
No, that's fantastic. One of the other things that we've talked about, and we kind of step outside the undrafted role here on this conversation, Chris, when you look at offensive line, we have a tomato can theory. So the tomato can theory is that you're only as good as your worst lineman. So if you've got 3 all-pros, another really good player, but then 1 terrible player, well, guess what? Guys like Aaron Donald just mentioned, that's who he's going to go against every single time. We haven't applied that necessarily to the secondary. Is that applicable in your opinion to your kind of as strong as your weakest link in the secondary?
Oh, without a doubt, man. Because now they can pick you apart. Now you can't hide anymore, right? Usually you can kind of hide that corner, put some cover 2 on them. You can't run cover 2 the whole game. It's gonna be a time period where that guy's gonna be 1-on-1, right? Yeah. So you can't hide guys anymore, especially in this scheme in this NFL. So it's just no running, right? We're gonna find you eventually. The top corner is gonna be a man probably 50% of the time, 60% of the time. So you're gonna be able to catch him also. So the way this league is going, there's no hiding. You're gonna be found out. There's 17 weeks now, right? So you got 17 weeks to try to be consistent as possible. And eventually, you're gonna get beaten in the NFL if you play corner. You're going against these receivers. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
By the way, don't name names. I'm not going to ask you to do that. I'm not putting anybody on blast here. But have there been times with maybe due to injury or maybe just poor evaluation where you've lined up and just gone like, man, this dude over here, we got no chance because they're going to pick up Morgan.
Definitely. We had some times when Talib left. Well, it was definitely hard. Once he moved on, but I went through a string of corners. But. I won't say that they didn't have the technique, or I would say they were just, young, and kind of throwing the fire and still needed some more work. Some guys don't, they don't come in the league, all rookie team. It doesn't happen like that. Sometimes they need about 3 or 4 years to get that, and not everybody gets that opportunity to get those years of development, right? So I was lucky to have guys that wanted to work and wanted to get better, but they weren't there all the way. Maker yet. So now I can see them now. They're doing a lot better. They're a lot of those guys I played with, they're are doing pretty well. Isaac Idem, he's a guy. He struggled a little bit with me when Denver. I was with him with the Saints. I see how much he improved, and now he just got a nice deal with the 49ers, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna make an impact on that team to get back to the Super Bowl this year. So he's a guy right there. I would say that started in raw, but he wanted it, and he continued to improve as his career continued.
Okay, Chris. I'm gonna say this: like having known you and got to know you, you strike me as one of those vets. It's kind of like the vets that you encountered. So when I was in Kansas City, my vets were Dale Carter, James Hasty, and those guys, and they were Mark McMillan. They were very demanding on me as the dime coming in. They would say, "Hey man, you know where the ball's going? It's going you. You got to hold up your end of the deal." And so it strikes me that Brian Dawkins and Champ Bailey put that kind of pressure on you. Can you talk about the positive benefits of the peer pressure in the position room and how it can make you a better player if you embrace it?
Yeah. Oh man, because they already had a high standard. We already know, like it's Hall of Fame. So ain't no talking back, ain't no saying no, I don't want to do this. Right. You just gotta fall in line, right? And I was lucky that we had meetings with no coaches. Right. So I'm sitting there, I get a whole hour every day for a full season to study film and watch film with no coaches, with B-Doc and Champ and Andre Goodman. Right. That's a dream come true as a corner, right? As a DB. So, it was very important for those guys to set the standard, to also give me so much confidence, right? They gave me so much confidence. Hey, we believe in you. We know you can play. When you get out there, just make sure you're ready. We love your competitiveness. I'm telling Coach Fox, they're telling Coach Fox to throw me in, right? Yeah. So now when I have vets telling the coaches to put me in, my confidence is off the roof. Now I'm about to go really. Not only am I about to go play hard for the team, but I'm about to go play extra hard for these guys because they put they stuck their neck out for me. So as an undrafted guy, so that was my mindset. And that kind of has to be a mindset for all the vets, right? Come in, try to give them as much as knowledge as they want. But, some vets get turned off because a lot of these guys they don't really love the game, So I think Doc and Champ and them seen I love the game. They seen I was competitive. And those guys went all in as being a vet towards me, a mentor towards me. For sure.
Okay, let me follow up. DJ, so I was telling you about my vet, James Hasty. So Chris, if you can imagine, we would meet on Tuesdays. He would come in at 9 o'clock. He said, Buck, you need to be here at 8 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we're playing Seattle this week. We have Joey Galloway. I want you to study him, and I want you to give me a report on Joey Galloway by the time I get here. That's the kind of demand that he put on me. And much like you talked about those guys going to bat for you for Coach Fox, he did the same thing for me when it came to Gunther and Marty Schottenheimer. When it comes to your preparation process, and this is more of a defensive back question, what are the things that you're looking for on tape to get you ready to play against a high-level wide receiver?
Yeah. Oh, man, you're looking at, of course, you want to look at his route tendencies, where he likes to line up, where his splits is. If it's a run, what does he do with his hands? Is they relax? Or if it's run, if it's pass, is he getting his hands ready, making sure his grip is ready? He's more in his stance. Things like that. Where he likes to run his breaks. A lot of receivers, a lot of them stayed within the scheme, but you had some receivers that the scheme didn't matter, right? They let them go outside the scheme, like a Tyreek Hill. Like he run a lot of his routes. You could stop on that first route. It was the second route, right? Same thing with AB. Big Ben buying extra time. He could, bam, he's in that second route. He's pretty much unstoppable. The first route is already tough to stop these guys, but now they get a second route. So you're studying everything, right? And the nickel, I had to study motions, stacks, bunches, covering on the run, different splits in the slot, covering tight, everything, right? I was since playing nickel and playing, I was one of the guys that was playing corner and then third downs having to go inside. So I had to look at base, my outside receivers, tons, all those routes from the X and the Z. Get back to the slot. Now I got to know everything, the slot, the tight ends, who's coming in here is running. So I had kind of like a double, double film study, I would say, because I wasn't just watching the left side. Hey, I'm just going to watch the left side. Let's see every route that AB runs on the left side. No, that's not what I had. I had to know every route that this guy ran all over the field, right? And when you have those responsibilities, right, we have to be very precise in our film watching. We can't wait to the end, right? I would have to study on. I would probably have to be going over first downs, probably that Monday. So that Monday, I need to know all the first down, quick game. I need to know all that on Monday because I have so much that I have information that I have to bring in from outside and the inside. So I have to study a little bit more extra. So I would start my preparation on Mondays, working first down, pass, play action, quick game. Second, on my Tuesday, I'm really working on their deep plays, right? What are the deep shots that they won throughout this season, right? And they're big plays that they've been successful on. Now I'm going through that. I need to know what plays could hurt me. If I'm in this coverage, if they love to run this versus coverage. If I'm in cover 4, okay, what's the best route? Oh, I'm getting a post right here, right? We know it's coming with this team if I get this alignment. So it's just different things that I would have to break it down every day, right? And something like what y'all do, right? How y'all study the draft guys, right? But, on Thursdays, third down, red zone. I'm having to learn all that. I have to communicate a lot in the red zone with the linebackers and the safeties in the corner. So I got to make sure I know my responsibility for all these guys. So it's a full-on work. It's a full-on work schedule, and being able to that was my kind of study, which I don't think everybody kind of prepares. Like everybody's different and they have their own way of preparing for a game. But that's what worked for me. And I couldn't procrastinate in my studying because I had so much I had to know on Monday. And my teammates were counting on me to kind of tell them a lot of things too. Hey, this team likes to run screens. I would watch a full day on screens, right? Because I pride myself as being a screen stopper. You're not running screens versus the Denver Broncos if 25's in a nickel, right? That was my philosophy. So every day, man, every day you had to have something to really master to be able to go out there and play well.
Well, there's so much that goes into playing that position and playing it well. And one of the things that we've discussed over the years, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it, just from when you entered the league, Chris, to where it is now, the importance of tackling. With all the reduced splits that you see week in and week out, and I think McVay probably was the champion of that and what they did, and now the copycat league, you see it everywhere. But I remember when Bucky and I started scouting in the early 2000s, we would have this guy would be labeled as a cover corner. We're like, he doesn't really tackle, but he's a cover corner. We'll be fine with him. That's what he does. Can you play with a cover corner in today's football?
It's gonna be hard. They might give up a couple yards, a lot of yak now, which is hard, and that kills the team. Yak kills the hitting yardage kills the defense now in today's game, right? The yards have to catch now because now you're getting a lot more bubbles, a lot of shovel passes, a lot of quick throws. So those yak stuff add up at the end of the game. You're like, dang, we gave up 100 yards and yards after catch, and usually that happens because your team can't tackle. Right, your secondary struggling with tackling, and you got to be able to tackle nowadays, Daniel. Because these corners now, and right, I would say they're pretty physical. I've seen some physical, but you might have one. What was the guy from Clemson? He didn't like to tackle, but his coverage skills is off the charts.
Yeah, Wiggins. Wiggins is a great example. He's a tough one for us to scout because if he was coming out in 2003, he'd have been a top 10 pick. Because he's long and fluid and fast and rangy and can play the ball and all those things. But then it's like, well, the tackling component now, like you're going to get brought into run fits. You're going to have to defend against these quick hitters and bubbles and things. And it's just hard. It's a harder evaluation now than maybe it would have been 15 years ago.
Yes, because now we got to see these guys. Can they get off? How they doing? We always had to see if guys can get off blocks. But we really got to see it now, right? Because it's a lot of screens. It's a lot of bubbles. It's a lot of perimeter plays that are happening, quick plays, right? And you got to be able to get off the block. You got to be able to tackle. And what I've seen last year was probably one of the worst tackling seasons in the NFL from what I've seen. I don't know what the numbers are, but I know the missed tackles were high, right? Even from just watching Denver, right? I know they probably, that's probably one of the highest years of missed tackles we've ever had, So that's what I'm seeing around the league is the fundamentals of that. And that's just because now we're not tackling in the offseason as much anymore. Even training camp is getting way lax. There's not no hitting really going on in training camp anymore. And now we can see it's showing up in the games. And the proper tackling fundamentals is just out the window, really. It was very bad last year. I haven't seen it that bad. Maybe it's because guys are adjusting from, the kill hits, the knockout hits or so. But, they didn't learn proper form. They just learned how to just kill somebody, they didn't learn how to wrap up, alligator tackle or things like that. So that's what I'm seeing right now. Maybe y'all can go look up the stats and give it to me one day. But the missed tackles were very high last year.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about like the missed tackles and the things about like being able to get people down in space and one-on-one. Well, I want to hit you with this because I think it's one of the things, it's a term that we use in scouting that I think maybe is overused. So when I tell you someone is a shutdown corner, what traits do you have to be a shutdown corner?
Yeah. Oh, man, eliminating your guy, being able to eliminate them. And in college, those guys should be able to, watching those, if they're an elite guy, they should be able to eliminate their guy, right? Especially in the college game. But in the league, it's really a shutdown a receiver in the league is, hey, Justin Jefferson had 50 yards today, right? Or, it's not, it's damn near impossible to keep these guys from getting catches. Now with the way that the schemes are, they can scheme the guys open. They're moving them around all over the field, and they can find a way to get the guy a couple catches, right? Bubbles, shovel screens. There's ways the offense can get you involved now, right? So shutting a guy down to 50, 50, 60 around those ways, not giving up any touchdowns. Now, if you're doing that consistently on a consistent basis, you're giving up 3 to 2 touchdowns a year. That's elite to me, right? Because especially you're on the island, you're not giving up anything, and you're giving up, I look at everything, Bucky, because we got to look at yards. We got to look at your targets. We got to look at your quarterback rating. How many touchdowns are you giving up? You know what I mean? We got to look at everything, as a corner.
You're sitting in the locker with the USA Today talking about, no, this dude is not a shutdown corner. I'm looking at all the stats. I'm not giving him that moniker because the numbers don't justify what the label is.
Like Derek Stingley. People don't realize this guy was a shutdown corner last year, right? Y'all missing his stats and what he did just because, of course, you got a rookie quarterback that was great last year, but this man put up great numbers. That's why I said he really had an all-pro year last year when you look at him. But, that just happens, man. Sometimes you got to go above and beyond as a shutdown corner to show what you can do. And right now, I would say the top guys, I love Surtain. But I think Surtain probably needs to take it up to another level because I think he can take it up another level, right? Yeah. To be a true, on the levels with a lot of our era guys, the Reeves, the Shermans, Talib, Pat P. I think they're almost to that level, but they're knocking on the door, right? The same thing with Sauce. I think they're knocking on the door because I think Sauce still needs to get those picks, right?
He just got to learn how to catch. He covers
that's
in front of a gun, but
it's covering, Sherman, Sherman 2.0, that's Sherm, right? I call him Baby Sherm, but without the hands, because one thing Sherm did, he had ball skills, right? Sherm was going to get the ball. So I love those two guys, Stingley. I love the guy, Kansas City, probably one of the great nickels coming through now.
McDuffie's a bad man. He's the best. He might be the best, just pure cover guy. Like if you were going to say,
I love McDuffie.
He might be the best.
And my fifth corner, I would probably say, I got to keep an OG in there, so I'm gonna keep Ramsey in there. Right, he's still playing ball, and still making plays. I love his game. So, but if I want to put in younger guys, take out Ramsey, then I'll put the guy from Chicago because I love his game, Johnson.
Okay,
he's gonna be a nice player, man. I love his game. Those would be the top 5 guys, pretty much that last year that was very consistent.
Yeah, Johnson just got himself $20 million a year, so he got rewarded for he's played. I've kept you. We both kept you long here, but we could go on forever here, Chris. So this is the last question, most important question. We're gonna have a 3-on-3 basketball game. You're one, right? So you got one of the slots. I'm going to let you pick one former Kansas basketball player, and then I'm going to let you pick one former NFL teammate to comprise your 3-man roster here for a 3-on-3 hoops. Who are we going with?
Oh, Joel Embiid. Okay. Oh, we're going MVP, man.
Over Paul P.
Over Paul Pierce. Over Paul Pierce.
Oh, any day. Embiid, man. Unstoppable when he's healthy. I'm going with Embiid. Because I got to see Embiid at Kansas. But if we were going somebody in my area, it was Brandon Rush. I came in with B Rush. So those are my guys.
So now you got to be firm on your squad because Bucky went to Carolina. I'm gonna give Bucky a chance to do it. I think I know.
Oh man, you got Michael Jordan.
He has no shot.
I got no shot, man. I might have to pick the truth now, man, to defend Jordan. Well, I'm gonna go with Embiid, and then basketball. It has to be an NFL teammate.
Yeah, NFL teammate.
Like NFL teammate. Man, I don't. Talib can hoop. I'm gonna go with Talib.
Okay. All right. There you go. All right, Buck. Who you putting up against him, Buck?
Look, man, it's gonna be a fight and pickup because Chris and Talib are gonna talk crazy the whole time. We're not gonna be able to get anything off because it's gonna get personal, and we're gonna be able to squab it. If he has Paul Pierce with him, Paul's gonna talk crazy and reckless. So we're not gonna get anything done. Obviously, like in North Carolina, so many choices, but you got to take the go. So you can take Michael Jordan, and then for a teammate from my NFL days, I'm gonna say this: like Dale Carter could play, but if I'm gonna go Kansas City, I'm gonna take Tony Gonzalez just because Tony Gonzalez.
Oh man!
So I got that squad in the post, and we're gonna do it. And then I'm just gonna hang out there and stay away. I'm gonna try and make sure that Aqib and Chris don't beat up on my guys doing all that crazy talking that they like to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Aqib on Tony, man, and we'll find a way. We're gonna have to try to double team Jordan when we can, man. We got to figure out a way.
See, but I know you guys, y'all gonna put the Jordan rules. So like y'all gonna foul him real hard.
They're gonna bang.
Snatch any chains that he brings, into the gym. He can't. He got to come no jewelry because Akib is gonna take it. So we're just gonna make sure
spread out, throw it down to Embiid. Embiid, do your job, man.
That is true. I don't think they have anybody to match up with Embiid down low, Chris.
No,
I think that's your shot right there, man.
Yes,
hey,
sir.
this was a fun way to end it, man. This has been an awesome conversation. It is. It's always a joy to visit with you, and for real, like we have so much respect for you for your career, all you accomplished. I mean, just an unbelievable player, and as everybody can tell by listening to this, just awesome dude, man. So we appreciate you, man.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me, man. It was fun.
Well, Buck, I always enjoy getting a chance to visit with him. We've had a chance to be around him. I was around him when he was with the Chargers. We got a chance to know him there. It probably an overused phrase, right? But just a true pro.
Mm-hmm. And like a true pro. And what I love about the conversation is DJ. When you work in the scouting business, you have all these things where you talk about critical factors, the traits and the things that you look for. Chris Harris not only embodies the traits that you look for in those underdogs who can kind of make their way onto your squad, but I just loved how he described what he would look for in a teammate. And it always comes down to the same things. And so it just leads me to believe that you and I are on the right path when it comes to the guys that make it and the guys that don't, and how you build a team. Like when he talks about dogs and super competitive people that love the game, that are willing to prepare the game and do all the other stuff, DJ, the recipe is the same no matter who we hear from, whether it's Chris Harris, who's an undrafted player, whether it's Luke Kuechly, who's a top 10 pick. They all have the same ingredients. And so I'm more confident than ever that the football character traits that we've talked about on the pod are the football traits that you need to look for in those players, because those are the ones that make it. And it gives those guys an opportunity to go from good to great when they're kind of pitted in the same pool.
Yeah, and I go back to just how competitive he is. That was something that just jumped through the screen. We're visiting with him, and I go back as well to, if you're an undrafted player, it's probably a good rule of thumb for any player, but particularly an undrafted player. You better know everything. You get no room for error in terms of mental mistakes. You better know everything, and you better be willing to do anything. Special teams, gunner. What do you need? You need me to fill in on scout team, help out on offense. You name it. If there's a number that you need to be called, it's my number. Then we'll figure out what the question is, but I'll be ready for the answer.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it is. And I think you have to be ready for everything. And it's one of the things that you want to convey to young players or young guys that are entering the league, like how this is an ASAP league. There's an urgency that you must carry yourself with to be able to really make the team and make contributions very early in your career. Chris talked about his process for being able to have it, but it's just really important that you kind of understand that once you move up to the big leagues, you better be on go and ready to go at any time to do anything, because that's how you make it in this league for the long term.
No doubt. Great conversation. Great to visit with him. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We will have a few more podcasts coming your way this week. We'll get a chance to get in a little bit of that preview mode as we get a little bit closer to the season. So I have a chance to break down some of these teams, some of these divisions. We'll have that coming your way if you're on the lookout for that the rest of the week. But that's going to do it for us today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.